that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the truth. صدق الله العلي العظيم. آمنا بالله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Let's make the dua that we made at the start of yesterday's lecture all together. Raise your hands with me in dua. This is the month of dua, the month of the Holy Quran, the month of Allah. رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي. Oh Allah, open up my heart and my mind to receive the information that I'm about to learn. وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي, and ease my affairs. وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِسَانِي, and untie the knots in my tongue. يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي, so that they may understand what I'm about to say. رَبِّ أَرِنِي الْحَقَّ حَقًّا فَأَتَّبِعَهُ. Oh Allah, let me see the truth as the truth so that I may follow it. وَالْبَاطِلَ بَاطِلًا فَأَجْتَنِبَهُ, and falsehood as falsehood so that I may avoid it. وَلَا تَجْعَلْهُ مُتَشَابِهًا عَلَيَّ, and don't let there be confusion between the two. فَأَتَّبِعْ هَوَايَ بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ, lest I follow my whims without even realizing it. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Yesterday, walillah alhamd, we had the tawfiq of quickly proving tawheed. And we did it with a very, very simple proof, right? For those who weren't here, the proof was very simple. I call it the proof of the unlimited creator, okay? And all we have to do is look at creators. All we have to do is look at creators. We find that every creator is greater than what they create, right? A mother might give birth to a child, but she is more than just a mother, right? She could be someone's sister, she could be someone's daughter, right? She could be an engineer, or she could be a lawyer, right? Or she could be a housewife. In my opinion, the greatest job you could ever have. 24/7, you're on call. Right, moms? 24/7, mashallah. Right? So, a creator then is greater than what they create. And you can apply that to any creator, whether it's an engineer, or whether it's an artist, or any creator, or a cook, right? So, if I take that universal concept that a creator, that all creators have this common denominator, this commonality, that every creator is greater than what they create, and we ask, well, what about the creator of all of limitation? We come to the conclusion that the creator of all of limitation must be unlimited. Ahsantum. And we said, since he's unlimited, that means that he doesn't have a beginning and doesn't have an end. Why? Because a beginning is a limit and an end is a limit as well. So that means he always existed and will always exist, right? يا حيا قبل كل حي ويا حيا بعد كل حي ويا حيا حين لا حي. Oh, he who exists and is alive before everything and after everything, right? And when nothing else exists except for he, subhanahu wa ta'ala. صلوا على محمد وآله. That statement is a statement of tawheed, that Allah is unlimited, right? So then from there we said, okay, flaws are also limitations. So that means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is flawless, because he doesn't have any limits, right? And so based on that, that means he's all perfect. And since he's all perfect, that means he knows all things. That means he is the all-wise. That means that he doesn't oppress, not even a quark's worth. Right? Why? Because all of these are limitations. Cruelty is a limitation. Oppression is a limitation. Doing something without wisdom is a limitation. Doing something without purpose is a limitation. Therefore, Allah is all purposeful, all wise, all just. You see? All this from what? From proving that Allah is unlimited. This also creates a huge paradigm shift in me, as I said yesterday. And that's that I realized that the all-perfect chose for me to exist. And so my worth and my value is an intrinsic one that comes from my very Creator himself. So I need not look towards anybody in society. Not my boss, not the cool kids in school, right? Not the athletes. All I have to look towards to understand my value is towards Allah, my Creator. And that also means that not just me, that everybody around me whom Allah chose for existence, right, is just as important as I am, and just as worthy as I am, and just as valuable as I am. Do you agree? If you agree, say I agree. This also creates a paradigm shift, because now when I look at the other person, right, I'm going to look at them realizing their value. I'm going to look at them through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the value He's given them. Does that make sense? If it makes sense, say it makes sense. So now, if my younger sibling comes and wants from my time, instead of shushing them and hushing them and pushing them away, right, these hands that are pushing will be doing what? Will be in a state of reception, receiving, bringing in, right? And instead of me rejecting someone when they ask for something, whether it's help or aid or support, instead of my hand pushing away, my hand will be doing what? Telling them to come near. I will help, right? Why? Because what I realize is this, is that since Allah gave everything value and does everything with a purpose, then I too have a purpose in this world. And the greatest purpose that I have is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because the greatest thing that Allah could have ever given me is existence. Because it's through this very existence that I have come to know Allah. And what is greater than knowing Allah? Is there anything greater? No. So I have to be thankful every living, breathing moment for being in the presence of greatness. And I'm not talking about a president, and I'm not talking about a king, and I'm not talking about a queen, right? And I'm not talking about anybody other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahu Akbar is a statement of Tawheed. We say it every day in our prayers, right? We say it when we see something that's awesome. We say Allahu Akbar. But do we really realize that this statement means that Allah is greater? So if you keep saying Allah is greater, when you want to compare anything to Allah, you can't. Why? Because Allah is greater. This is a statement of Allah's unlimited nature. Allah is greater. Keep going on. Anything you compare it to, greater than this, greater than that, greater. If the oceans were to be spread, right, and compared to the words of my Lord, then know that no oceans could ever contain the words and the signs and the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what about Him? Allahu Akbar. Now when I say it with a paradigm shift and a true understanding in my heart that this is a statement of Tawheed. Imam Ali salamullahi alayhi says it beautifully. Because many people say, well, can you really know Allah? There are schools of thought who say, like the Mu'tazilites, they say a human mind cannot know Allah. Imam Ali disagrees with them. What does he say? He says, أَوَّلُ الدِّينِ مَعْرِفَةُ. The first of religion is to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We want our kids and our siblings to recite Quran, right? But why should they recite Quran if they don't value that these words are the words of Allah? So in this series, we're going to prove that the Quran truly is the book of Allah. We're going to compare it to other books, and you'll see. Make sure you hang in and you attend, okay? Because you'll need all this information, because I'm going to expect you to know it so well that you can teach others as well, okay? Which means I want you to make sure that you're prepared, right? If you have notepads and pens, bring them. If you take notes with your phone, then take notes with your phone. I highly encourage it, okay? And I'll give you my email so that you send me your notes. My email is knowledgeseekers514@gmail.com. knowledgeseekers514@gmail.com. If you send me the notes for the session, then what I will do is I will give you a prize for your notes. Okay? Sounds good? Even if it's in point form, okay? I don't ask for much. Right? Even if it's in point form. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So after proving this very important point of Tawheed, where Imam Ali says, أول الدين معرفته, the first thing that we have to do when it comes to religion is to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then we say, well, how can we know Allah? So what does Imam Ali say? He says it beautifully. He says, وَكَمَالُ مَعْرِفَتِهِ التَّصْدِيقُ بِهِ. And the completion, the best way to know Allah is to prove His existence. We just proved His existence, didn't we? Right? With the proof of the unlimited Creator, we proved His existence. Right? Then what does he say? We say, well, what is the best way to prove the existence of Allah? He says, وَكَمَالُ التَّصْدِيقِ بِهِ تَوْحِيدُهُ. To have tawheed, which means to prove that He's an unlimited Creator. Right? Then he says, وَكَمَالُ تَوْحِيدِهِ الْإِخْلَاصُ لَهُ. And the completion and the best way to have tawheed is to have sincerity to Allah. Sincerity. Did I not just say that logically we were able to prove that our purpose in life is to be thankful to Allah, to dedicate ourselves to Allah. With every single faculty that Allah has given me, I must show gratitude. With my eyes, with my skin, with my hands, right? With my ears, with my intellect, with every single power and faculty that Allah has given me, I must show Him gratitude with full sincerity to Him and to Him alone. So now, when I want to help someone, I don't help them for who they are. Muqsid, when I help you, you're a nice guy. But I help you because of Allah. Because your value to Allah. Brother Faisal, same with you. I value you because Allah brought you to this world. And not just that, you have the tawfiq of being a mu'min, right? Like you said yesterday, inshallah, mu'mineen nkun, inshallah. Right? Inshallah. Right? But what does that mean? That means that now my relationship with you is going to be different. I'm going to see you through how Allah wants me to see you, not through how the materialistic world wants me to see you. So I don't see your clothes. You get me? I don't see what you're wearing, what you're driving, how big your house is. I don't see that stuff anymore, right? All I see is a beautiful soul that was chosen for existence in this world and that deserves time because Allah gave it time. And Allah created time. So why do I not have enough time for my brothers and sisters in faith? Yes? Does that make sense? It makes me look at things with a totally different lens. Completely different lens. Would you agree? If you agree, say I agree. And mothers, I'll tell you, and fathers, this will give you patience with your kids, by the way. Right? If you keep reminding yourself, Allah put him in my life for a reason. Right? He's coming late, but Allah put him in my life for a reason, right? Yes, to stress me out maybe sometimes, but that's okay, there's a reason. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I want to focus on this issue of ikhlas, this issue of sincerity. Why? Because this sincerity that the Imam is telling me about, he says, وَكَمَالُ تَوْحِيدِهِ الْإِخْلَاصُ لَهُ, that the perfection, the best way to have tawheed is to have full sincerity to Allah, which means to dedicate all of you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, including the very breath that I breathe. And notice that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does for me in this month, according to the Prophet's sermon, right? He says, أَنفَاسُكُمْ فِيهِ تَسْبِيحٌ. He says, look, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it for you in this month. Just so that you understand. And the Prophet tells me what the value of that breath is, as I mentioned yesterday. Okay? But I want you to focus on the word ikhlas. There's a chapter in the Holy Quran named the chapter of Al-Ikhlas. Most of us know it as the chapter of Qul huwa Allahu ahad. Right? We don't necessarily know its name. But the name of that chapter is Al-Ikhlas. And what does it express in it? All together. Qul huwa Allahu ahad. Say that Allah is one. One as a number? Astaghfirullah wal-a'yadu billah. Allah is greater than that. Ahad here means what? Means that He is unique. There is none other like Him. Why? Because He's unlimited. This is a statement of Tawheed. Allahu as-Samad. Right? Allah is the steadfast. Right? Lam yalid wa lam yulad. He did not beget nor is He begotten. Which means what? He always existed, will always exist. He does not have the limitation of being created. Right? وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا Ahad. And there is none like him. None equal to him. Right? So Allah starts with a statement of Tawheed, ends with a statement of Tawheed. There is none like him, he is unique. Okay? This is the chapter of Ikhlas. Right? This is the chapter of Tawheed. You see? Okay? And this chapter, though we recite it every single day in our prayer, and it's probably the very first chapter that we memorize when we're kids, right? But many of us, we don't realize that this is a reference to Tawheed, true Tawheed. Sincerity to Allah is not to ascribe a partner to Him. Not to see Him as anything other than the unlimited Creator. And then what comes from that are those paradigm-shifting concepts that I mentioned to you. Does that make sense? If it makes sense, say it makes sense. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So now where does that bring me? I dedicate myself to Allah. So I say, okay, oh Allah, I want to show you my gratitude that you have put me into the state of existence so that I may know you. And what could be greater than knowing the all-perfect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So I say, okay, I want to show you gratitude. So how am I going to show Allah gratitude? I'm going to first and foremost, logically, see how He treats His creations. I'll treat them the same. Make sense? If it makes sense, say it makes sense. So Allah is tolerant. Therefore, I must be tolerant. Allah is patient with His creations. Therefore, I must be patient. Allah gives them from His time. Therefore, I must give from my time. Right? Allah is merciful. وَسِعَتْ رَحْمَتُهُ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. His mercy has encompassed all things. Therefore, I must be merciful with all things. Just like a child, when he mimics his father or his mother, when they do certain actions, right? And that parent becomes happy to see the child when they're holding a pen and trying to mimic their dad. Or putting on fake glasses and trying to act like their mom, putting their glasses on and off, right? Or dressing like their parents, right? It makes the parents so proud, okay? Imagine how proud Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would be if we were to act as He would act. And نَتَخَلَّقْ بِأَخْلَاقِ اللَّهِ. That we have the manners and the ethics of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What's next? I say, okay, well, that level I can understand, right? But what else is needed? The next level is to say, you know what, Allah, everybody communicates with everybody else, right? In school, they communicate with me. They tell me when I have homework and when I don't, right? My friends, when they want to go out, they want to come to the center, or after the center, they want to go for suhoor, they send me text messages and we meet up, right? Oh Allah, if you gave me the intellectual capacity to understand the importance of communication, then should you not be, by priority, the one who communicates with me and with your creations as well? Think about it. When it's Mother's Day or Father's Day, right? How many mothers here and fathers? How many mothers and fathers? So when it's Mother's and Father's Day, many of us, you know, we get gifts, right? Some of the gifts we never really use, right? We're happy that our children thought about us and brought us the gifts, but some of them we're like, oh, thank you. Shukran, may Allah bless you, son, may Allah bless you, daughter, you know, kiss on the forehead, you know, and so on, right? But then there are times when our kids come to us and they find out from us or from our spouse, what does mama want? You know, what does dad want, right? And, you know, they investigate, or they come and they ask us, I don't want to bring you a gift that you don't like. Please tell me what you'd like for Father's Day or for your birthday or for Mother's Day, right? And when we get that present, we enjoy it a lot more. Agreed? Right? So it's the same concept when it comes to when I deal with Allah. I can do a whole bunch of things. For example, let's say, for example, I'm at home and I decide to clean out the garage, decide to organize it, right? I go to my dad, I say, Dad, alhamdulillah, organize the garage. He says to me, very good, son, may Allah bless you, inshallah. However, I would have much preferred that you asked your mom what she would have wanted you to do. That's the PC answer. Okay? And when he goes to his mom, what would she say? She'd say, well, your dad saw how disorganized your room was. I think your room is a priority. That's what he meant. Okay? So, if I had asked my dad in the first place, then I would have known and he would have been more pleased with me. Not that he isn't pleased with me because I organized the garage, but he would have been even more pleased with me because I sought to figure out what pleases him. Does that make sense? If it makes sense, say it makes sense. So then, that means then I should do the same with Allah. I should look towards Allah and say, oh Allah, what do I need to do to please you? What do you want me to do, oh Allah? Does that make sense? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can't leave me hanging, huh? He can't. Why? Because that would be cruel. How does it make sense that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would give me this world and this life, and just leave me hanging and say, I'm leaving you to your own faculties, your own senses. Tawakkal ala Allah, go ahead. Tawakkal ala Allah, but I haven't given you enough for tawakkul, right? Would that be cruel or would that be fair? That'd be cruel, right? And Allah is all fair, which means He has to communicate with me. The question is, how do I know what message is from Allah? So logically, I know that He must communicate with me, right? He must. He gave me that ability. I mean, in universities, what's the first thing that they do when we take classes? University, elementary school, high school, what do? They give me a syllabus, right? They give me a textbook, correct? They give me a teacher. So where's my textbook? Oh Allah. Where is my textbook? And I know He's got to give it to me. Why? Because He's not going to give me any pop quizzes. Because He knows pop quizzes are cruel, right? He knows that He can't, if He's all fair, He can't come later on and say to me, why did you do this? Why did you do that? When He didn't give me instructions on what to do and what not to do. Does that make sense? If it makes sense, say it makes sense. So based on that then, that means I have to search out His message now. And I have to look towards everybody who says they have a divine message and try to figure out which message is truly from Allah. But I can only do so by doing what? By using several criteria. The first two criteria are very important criteria, okay? And they're based on Allah's characteristic of what? Of being unlimited, all perfect, right? So criterion number one is that the book itself, the message, it has to be unchanged over time. Why? Because Allah has no limits. Therefore, He is unchanged over time, which means His message must be unchanged over time. That's number one. Number two, it's got to be that the message as well, other than being unchanged over time, has to reflect the author. So for example, if I'm in class and I submit a paper, and Brother Faisal submits a paper to the teacher, right? We both forget to write our names, but we've been in this class for, a good semester, so the teacher knows us, knows how good our English is, knows how well we write, how well we read, knows our thought process. So then, do you think she'd be able to decipher which paper belongs to whom? Yeah, right, safely, right? So that tells us then the characteristics of the author must be reflected in what? In the message. Does that make sense? If it makes sense, say it makes sense. So that means that since Allah is all perfect, right? That means His message must be all perfect and non-contradictory. It must not have any errors in it whatsoever. Make sense? If it makes sense, say it makes sense. If you agree, say I agree. Good, okay. So it looks like asking you to agree is better than saying if it makes sense. I get more of a response. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. How much more time do you have? A second time for the love of Al-Hasan and Al-Hussein. A last time for the love of Sayyidah Zahra, salamullahi alayha. Okay, so these are the first two characteristics of what the message should be. There are other characteristics or criteria, I should say, okay? The third criterion is that it has to have information in it, or it has to correct false claims made by scholars of past religions or statements made or claims made by atheists. It has to address those issues and fix them, especially when it comes to past religions, okay? Then the fourth criterion is that it has to have information about this universe that nobody would know except for the Creator Himself. Does that make sense? Okay? And then fifth and last, the message has to be miraculous. It has to be miraculous. Okay? Why? Because the Creator is beyond nature, which means He's above nature. Which means, therefore, His message must also be supernatural, right? It must be above, right, the normal, above the normal, right? Above nature. Make sense? Do you agree? Okay. So what we're going to do, inshallah, not tonight, but in upcoming nights, we're going to go through which books make such a claim, which religions lay claim to the fact that they believe that they have the divine message of God, and how to decipher which message is truly God's or not, based on using these 5 criteria. Okay? Right. Now, before I finish, yesterday I gave you the proof of the unlimited creator. I'm going to give you another proof as well that you also need to know. This is a common proof that's taught in Hawza. Okay? It's called Burhan al-Nuzum. This is a very, very simple proof. It's made out of 3 parts, right? Major premise, a minor premise, and a conclusion, right? So these premises are based on, the first 2 premises are based on empirical observations and asking simple questions, okay? So in the first part, what we're going to do is we're just going to look at the world around us, all right? And we're going to ask simple questions about the world around us and see what answers we can get. The same thing with the second part of the proof. Now, the first part of the proof, we can look at, let's say, take any fruit. Let's say an orange. I cut it in half, I look at it. When you cut an orange in half, you see it looks almost like the wheel of a bicycle, right? The spokes, right? Would everybody agree that it looks organized? Yes? Okay, we agree. Good. Now, let's say I cut an onion in half, okay? And we see the layers beautifully, symmetrically organized. And if you cut it across, you see the rings, one inside the other. Would you say that that looks organized? Yes, you agree? Okay. So if I take the epithelial cells, okay, meaning that soft sheath from the onion, I put it under a microscope, I'll see that all of the cells are organized like bricks, one next to the other. Okay? Each one similar to the other, with the exact same types of contents. Each cell has a cell wall, right? It has cellular fluid, right? It has a nucleus, and it has, of course, chloroplasts, etc., etc., etc. Okay? Would you say that that is an organized system? Would you agree? Yes? Okay. Now, what about sunrise and sunset? Every single day, sun rising from the east, setting in the west. Would you say that's an organized system? Okay, very good. What about the solar system? Would you say that's an organized system? All of the planets orbiting around the sun, right? Staying in their orbit. Yes? Is that organized, you would say? Good, okay. So then we can safely say, based on these examples, that the world is organized. Would you agree? Now, one of you is going to say, hang on, Sheikh, now let me put my hand up, okay? But what about natural disasters, right? What about birth defects? What about wars, right? What about all those poor people who were killed in Turkey with all of the earthquakes and in Syria, right? We're going to address that. We will address that, okay? So tomorrow, inshallah, the day after, I will address that, okay? But stay with me now. Based on these simple examples, we agree that the world is organized. Agreed? Good. Second part of the proof. Let me ask you this. Who organizes your home? Very honest answer. Your mom, ahsanti, yes, right? And if you're good kids, you're going to help your mom, right? Who organizes a doctor's office, would you say? The doctor, if he doesn't have any staff. The janitor, maybe. The nurse. Agreed? Right? Okay. Who organizes a school? The janitor, exactly, right? So, can we agree that for something to be organized, right, it needs an organizer? Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, good. So, we can safely say then that everything organized has an organizer, a creator of its organization. Do you all agree with that statement? Yes? You agree? Agreed, brothers? Okay, good. So now let's review. In the first part of the proof, we agreed that the world is organized based on the empirical examples we looked at, right? The empirical observations. In the second part of the proof, we agreed that everything organized has a creator of its organization, right? So the world is organized, everything organized has a creator of its organization, therefore the world has a creator of its organization. Agreed? Good. Now yesterday we proved that this creator, okay, is not more than one. He's the unlimited creator, right? His most important characteristic is that he is unlimited, okay? Can I wrap my head around being unlimited? No, because then it would be limitation, not unlimited, right? Okay? which means there's obviously, there's no way that I'm going to understand the full depths of Allah's unlimited nature. I won't. Okay, I won't fully understand His knowledge. I won't fully understand His ability. I won't fully understand all that stuff. But what I do know is that Allah is unlimited. I've proven His existence, and I've proven that Allah has this unlimited nature. And that means that He's all perfect. And we were able to come to all of these truths that we were able to reach based on that. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. Now, there are things we have to deal with in the next couple of days, right? Number one is trials and tribulations, as I mentioned, okay? Number two is chaos theory. And number three is evolution. Yes? Right? How many people want to learn about Islam's view on evolution? How many? Okay. Not that many. Okay. That means everybody knows, mashallah, about Islam's view on evolution. No? Okay. They're tired. Okay, good. Everybody's waiting for the food, huh? For salah, so they can break fast. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So we're going to explore and analyze chaos. Okay? What does it mean? How has this term been used? Okay? The layman's understanding and usage of it, how it's being used in the media, how is it actually being used in the halls of academia? Okay, what is chaos theory? Who developed the idea of chaos theory? Does it refer to chaos or no? Right? And that's what we're going to be talking about with chaos. And then when it comes to, inshallah, evolution, we're going to dive as deeply as we can into evolution with whatever information that they have, inshallah. That'll come up in upcoming nights, bi'awnihi ta'ala. I ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the tawfiq to be together, to realize these realities and this information. And I ask that Allah gives you the tawfiq to be able to take notes and to submit them, right? So that inshallah you can get prizes, and then we can inshallah have a dialogue about this information. And I can make disciples out of you that can go out and actually, teach other people, right? So that you can bring more people to the faith. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. All right. Oh Allah, we ask you and we beseech you that you accept what little we offered on this night. Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask you and we beseech you that you remove all oppression from this world. Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask you and we beseech you that you grant these beautiful mu'mineen every single wish and want and need that they have. Ya Allah. As long as it is in pleasing you. Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask you and we beseech you that you grant the wishes of all of the mu'mineen and mu'minat around the world in these nights, in this beautiful month of Ramadan. Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask you and we beseech you that you repay the debts of all those who are in debt, Ya Allah. That you liberate all those who are wrongfully incarcerated, Ya Allah. That you give health to our sick, Ya Allah. That you bestow your mercy upon our dearly departed relatives, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask you and we beseech you that you support the founders of this center, Ya Allah. And every center like this center, and every volunteer that volunteers in this center and centers around the world, Ya Allah, that make programs like this possible, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask you and we beseech you that you allow us to be those who are honored, to be honored by Al-Imam Al-Hujjah, salamullahi alayhi, looking at us with the eye of rahmah and saying, I want her, I want him to be part of my team. Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask you and we beseech you that you hasten his appearance. Ya Arhamar Rahimin. For surely, Ya Allah, faqad tala al-firaq. Ya Arhamar Rahimin. It's been too long, Ya Allah. And we are ready for the appearance of Al-Imam Al-Hujjah. There's so much tyranny and so much dictatorship and so much oppression and so much that's being done under the label of liberation and liberalism, Ya Allah. We ask you and we beseech you, Ya Allah, to help us hasten the appearance of the Imam, salamullahi alayhi, Ya Arhamar Rahimin. Wa akhiru da'wana an alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. And al-Fatiha on the souls of al-marhumin, preceded by salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.